Hey, Doty-Hoff, why don't you start the movie? I did. Woo. This episode of Obscure Chatter is brought to you by Heroes. The best hero is stuffed with a whole lot of Italian. Meat and cheese and vegetables. I was talking about the sandwich, you perv. And now, on to the episode. Welcome to another episode of Obscure Chatter. I am your host, Terri Doty. If this is your first time listening, welcome. And if it isn't, welcome back. Hola. Hi. Hello, you beautiful babies. You beautiful baby. I don't know why I was going like Gary Oldman. The creatures of the night. What beautiful music they make. Yeah, sorry. None of you are babies. Are some of you babies? Get those babies out of here. We're staying relatively cool in the living room. I miss being in the studio, but I'm not passing out to talk to myself, at least without sending someone an invoice, someone that isn't just myself. That said, the AC might cut out for a second. It's been fun that way. You might even hear a Steven trying to fix that issue. Not planning on the air going out, but weirder things have happened. So I figure giving us a heads up will minimize the possibility of us cutting out. We had a bit of a hissy fit last time, as you can recall, because of some tech issues. So we are, no. We are not putting that energy out into the universe. I don't know what this voice is, but I like it. I occasionally do it, so here we are. No, I'm not doing that for the whole show, I promise you. I'm so happy to be back. And with happiness in short supply, I'm going to ride this wave while I have the chance. Totally sounds like I'm on drugs, but I'm not, at least to my knowledge. No, I was not drugged. Again, to my knowledge. Nah. I don't think the good people at Shipley's Donuts would do me like that. I mean, they shared me on their Instagram stories recently, y'all, so I'm basically their spokesperson now. I highly doubt they would ruin that relationship, to my knowledge. I told you I'm happy. And if you're a regular listener, you know that generally means things will probably be all the more random because of it. You're welcome, and I'm sorry. So, I definitely blinked at the end of July and jumped to the end of August somehow. Is that just happening for me because I'm an old lady, or are we all feeling that way? Honestly, it's weird, but going through what I read, listened to, and watched is the only way I know that time has passed sometimes. And this was definitely that case where I was looking over stuff and just being like, no, I thought I read that a couple months ago. Like, bitch, you read that a couple weeks ago. So with that, let's break down what music, movies, shows, and books were a part of August's journey through life. Music is a daily thing, as it should be for everyone. I warm up with music occasionally, but like today I did one of my singer warm-ups. But I've just been vibing with my music, which is how it should be. But I mean, it's hard sometimes, especially if you're relying on streaming, which is why I've been trying to collect stuff again. I think the first time I heard She Wants Revenge was when I was working at Guitar Center. And anytime their song Tear You Apart came on, you would hear my store manager, Bruce, audibly groan. He gave me a lot of shit for liking it. But because I kept hearing it, we had a radio, Guitar Center radio, that we did not control from the store, which was hellacious. But sometimes it worked out, and it exposed me to songs and bands I'd never heard of, including She Wants Revenge. I've only got their first two albums currently, physically, but I'd love to find more. Just haven't had any luck in the wild. Oddly enough, when I used to check Anime News Network religiously, which is not a thing that I do anymore, I noticed that someone at some point put She Wants Revenge as my favorite band. I have no idea when I might have said this, but it was probably that anime show. And same goes for my blood type. My blood type, which is accurate, is on Anime News Network. And that's a really weird thing to see on the site. Some people have explained to me why it's a thing more in Japan than in America, but I think maybe we were talking about a blood drive or something. But yeah, just in case you need to go to ANN and be like, oh my God, what blood type is Terri Doty? It's O positive. It's one of the few things about me that's positive. I don't know. Okay, yeah. And low-key, my petty teenage ass wanted to hate Incubus because my nemesis loved them. Yeah. If you're new here, I had a high school nemesis. Do they know they're my nemesis? I don't know. I don't know the inner workings of official nemesis labels. Maybe I was hers. She was definitely mine. But it is, Incubus is a great band to warm up with. And Brandon is still beautiful. So that's very helpful. Let's see. Post-punk is always an easy sell, and there's no bigger example than my love for The Cure. And I honestly can't think of a song that I don't love, but A Forest is a personal favorite. It's on a playlist on called If You Know, You Know. And it's one of very few songs that's hey, if you don't know what to play at my funeral, here are a few options. I hope that's not dark for some people, but I think about that. I think about what we'll play at my funeral all the time because it's something I never thought about until I was planning my father's funeral. And that's triggering. It's why I can't hear Johnny Cash's Hurt because the funeral home that held my dad's service, I gave them the CD and they had a shitty ass CD player. And the CD skipped, and they just let it skip until I said something. Wasn't great. But, yeah, moving on. The Cure, A Forest. Check it out if you haven't heard that song. I've been listening to a lot of En Vogue. I had cassettes of En Vogue, but never CDs until recently. And I especially love the song Whatever. Destiny's Child has been helping with a lot of manifestations recently. New metal band I got into because of a movie. There are a few examples, but El Nino is a special one. Freddy vs. Jason is not a flick that everyone loves, but I mean, what do you expect? Because it was in development hell for years. And I think they reached an interesting middle ground. My fandom definitely might be making me biased. Some people really hate this film, and I understand. I just don't. But at the end credits, How Can I Live by El Nino came on, and that inspired me to check them out. I think they're defunct now, but I did have their first album, Revolution, was decent. It was decent, but I remember really having to hunt that down. I think there are 2 more albums before they defunct or whatever the fucking actual term is. There are a lot of instances of new metal now that I'm thinking about in like the early 2000s. Like I don't remember how I got into Papa Roach. It was probably MTV, but I remember Papa Roach and Drowning Pool were in that Jet Li The One. And I actually got into Linkin Park because of a fuck awful movie called Dracula 2000. You are missing nothing but the soundtrack. Just take my word for it. Ready or Not, the Ready or Not album by the Fugees has been on heavy rotation. I actually played, I think the song is actually just called Ready or Not, for Steven. And he's like, oh, I remember this. And I went on this giant tangent about the movie Sleepwalkers because, there's an Enya song that was used in the movie Sleepwalkers that I actually initially thought was like an original track for the movie that is very funky. But yeah, it's just an Enya song. I don't remember the name of the Enya song, but I thought it was awesome sounding, and it stuck with you. It really fit the movie, which is, again, most movies are divisive, whatever. Am I going to make Steven watch it eventually? Yes, because that's just what couples do. I can't believe you haven't seen this. And I think that was my first instance of watching anything with Brian Krause, who was Leo in Charmed, in it. But no, the Fugees used a sample for that particular Enya song, and they decided to do it without Enya's permission, which was not a smart decision, but they eventually came to an agreement. I think it was settled out of court. But y'all pissed off Enya. But no, I love that song enough that I got the CD, and that's how I knew who Lauryn Hill was. I got Lauryn Hill's CD eventually, and I thought it was weird that she was in Sister Act 2, and I'm like, is that Lauryn Hill? And I was right. But I don't know if she'll ever come out with another album. If she has, it completely escaped me. Ooh, got a little. In addition to it to being fuck awful hot, it's somehow dry and humid. So that's fun. So you got a little scratching the scalp. But I didn't get into Fiona Apple until much later. I'd say just in the past 10 years. And I'm liking what I'm hearing. I'm slowly getting into each album at a time. I think the first CD, I don't remember the name of the CD, but it had Criminal on it. And then I've just been kind of collecting stuff as we go. I also just like her personal vibe. Like there's this random video I saw not too long ago of, it's like her and Quentin Tarantino, and I don't know why they're talking to each other or he's talking at her loudly, but you can just see throughout the entire video how fucking over it she is. And I don't know why. That just really made me like her. And then since I got Apple Music for free for 3 months, since I got some Beats, it gave me like 3 free months, which has been nice to just be streaming is easy just when you're getting ready, not switching out CDs and stuff like that. There are benefits to streaming versus physical media. They're just not enough to deal with ads. They're just not. I forgot how much I loved Limp Bizkit. And this is one of the few times like my mom and I actually like bonded over the song. It's a Limp Bizkit song for fuck's sake, so that's already weird. But Rollin'. All right, keep on rolling, baby. You know what time it is. Boom, 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 bam, bam, bam. Like we did a dance to it for this talent show that I hosted once a month in high school. It was random. But I think this is Limp Bizkit is one of the few instances where I got into a pretty fucking intense argument about music in high school with, I want to say a friend. I don't know if we were actually enemies. Some people are like, she hates you, right? I'm like, what? I'm like, she fucking hates you. Like, those friends are fun when it takes someone being like, I'm on the outside and I'm looking in, not a stained reference intentionally. And this is bad. But we got into this knockdown drag out. Like we were rehearsing on stage for something and I was just like singing some Limp Bizkit song. I forget. But, they were very, very, very much of the mind that Limp Bizkit is not music. And that they were the authority basically on music because they were from California and I wasn't. I'm like, I've lived in California. How dare you? But yeah, we had to get separated because of Limp Bizkit. So that was fun. So you've just learned a little bit more about Terri. She'll fight a bitch over Limp Bizkit. No, apparently, although I did watch that video of drones. Why are people bringing drones to shows? And trying to get really close to the stage during Limp Bizkit. So Fred motioned for the drone to get closer and fucking broke it. Stop bringing drones to to concerts. You can bring as many clones as you want. Yeah. I actually haven't watched too many movies in the last month. I'm as shocked as you are. Maybe subconsciously I'm preparing to watch a fuck ton of movies in October. Maybe I won't. Who knows? Maybe I'll change it up. I highly doubt it, though. I did last night watch Naked Gun, the first Naked Gun. I'm trying to find Police Squad. I haven't had any luck yet. But I hadn't seen it in years. And would you be surprised that parts of it haven't aged well? Who knew? Who knew? You either know or you know. But I mean, Roger Ebert once referred to Leslie Nielsen as the Laurence Olivier of spoofs, with good reason. I remember as a kid liking it just because he was so like physically funny, but watching it as an adult, like, God, what was I doing watching this as a kid? And when I saw Ricardo Montalban, I remembered I was a presenter at the Crunchyroll Awards in 2018, and the ceremony was at the Montalban. I may have geeked and was pretty fucking pissed that nobody understood who I was talking about until I'm like, Khan, now? And really had to remind people, like, like, Khan. Like, oh, like, okay, cool. I honestly forgot how random An American Werewolf in London is. It's a Landis film, a John Landis film, so I remembered how random he is very quickly. I'm like, all right, I'm kind of stupid for getting that. But my God, those effects are still amazing. And y'all know practical effects are an easy way to thrill me. I'm a slut that way. I'm a slut for practical effects. Put that on my tombstone. Please don't do that. Why would you do that? And I'm pretty sure Landis considers American Werewolf in Paris his masterpiece. And I mean, with good reason. He's done a lot. I remember he also directed a few Michael Jackson videos, including, Thriller. How can you not talk about Thriller? And we watched the behind the scenes, like all the making of stuff in choir one day. And I was always kind of shocked when we watch movies in choir. But I mean, every teacher needs a TV day or 5. And no, we actually watched things that dealt with music. They had to be tied to music, even loosely. So like when we watched The Lion King, I pissed off a bunch of girls because I thought I was being so funny and edgy in junior high, laughing when Mufasa died. But that's only because I knew that it would piss off these girls that were obsessed with Jonathan Taylor Thomas. JTT, baby. So edgy. But if I'm going to bring up Jonathan Landis, you always have to put, at least in the, in the conversation, the Twilight Zone disaster that happened, that he could have helped in a major way prevent. As a director, he disregarded a lot of basic safety and regulations, and that led to the death of Vic Morrow, who's Jennifer Jason Leigh's dad, and 2 children. And that, honestly, is just a story that I skip, which is pretty fucked when you watch The Twilight Zone, the 1983 Twilight Zone movie. So basically, you watch the opening segment, the little opener, little teaser with Dan Aykroyd and Al Brooks, and go straight to the Spielberg story with Scatman Carruthers helping old people feel young again. Just do that. I promise you are not missing anything. It'll be a much shorter movie, obviously, but so if you're watching it on tape, just until you see, like, keep fast forwarding after the boo doo 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 doo. Just keep fast forwarding until you see Scatman Carruthers. Then you're good. Done. But if you like An American Werewolf in London, do not watch An American Werewolf in Paris. I actually like that movie, but it is not great. Instead, watch another Landis film called Innocent Blood. It's one of my favorite vampire movies. Female vampire kills bad guys, but doesn't think things through when she kills a mob boss. You might dig it, again, Landis, so prepare for a fair amount of camp. I also rewatched Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. That's a lot of name. Too much, which I think is why we call it Birds of Prey, which immediately makes me think of the very bad Birds of Prey television show. It was a very, very bad show on the WB about Batman and Catwoman's daughter. We don't have enough time to talk about that. So Birds of Prey, the one I want to talk about is actually the last movie that I saw before the lockdown in 2020, like February 2020. I don't think I went to the theaters again until Spider-Man No Way Home. And then I think Multiverse of Madness shortly after. And Multiverse of Madness is where I bought out like almost an entire row. I left like the last two seats at the edge opposite me. But I should have just bought out the whole fucking row. I was just deeply paranoid and I'd always wanted to do that. I guess technically I haven't because I didn't buy out the entire row. But I will someday. But no, faults and all, Birds of Prey is still good. Margot's accent thoroughly improved. It was a little distracting in Suicide Squad, Suicide Squad, the 2016 one. Fight scenes are excellent. The other cast members are badass. I really love Ewan McGregor playing something we hadn't really seen him do, at least in a while. I distinctly remember him being a giant ham in an episode of Tales from the Crypt, where he was like a ghoul. But I had a good time watching it, so much so that I made the mistake of trying to rewatch the 2016 Suicide Squad. And it's just not fucking good. It's just not. People convinced me or that for a second there that I needed to give it a second chance. They are wrong. You can have your wrong ass opinion. But the Suicide Squad is actually really, really good. But yeah, so only a couple movies. I have been lucky enough to find a lot of shows to watch, though. As I mentioned in previous episodes, I am trying to stick to cartoons in the morning. On the weekend, I might throw on some Beyond Belief actor fiction. Like I saw one this morning that had Ashley Lawrence from like the Hellraiser series. And I actually got to meet her once. She was so sweet. I'm like, why is Ashley Lawrence here? Oddly not in the story about like a puzzle box or music box. But I finished Tales from the Crypt Keeper, which the animation shift in season 3 was a little weird. But I mean, I finished it. And I don't think I finished it as a kid. I think finishing cartoons was kind of a hard thing to do sometimes. You just kind of stopped because your school schedule changed or summer let out or they just stopped airing it. I don't know. Went straight to Men in Black, the series. And I don't think I'd watched all of that when it aired either. But I'm finishing it now. And I didn't realize or clock this because I'm a much bigger voiceover dork now. But Vincent D'Onofrio and Tony Shalhoub actually did return as their characters for a while there. And there's even an alien race called the D'Onofrians, which Hoff has never seen any of this, so he's been enjoying it, which always makes me happy. And still on the Tales from the Crypt vein, I've been slowly collecting VHS compilations. People online are very, very proud of their prices. So I found a few tapes in the wild, but I'm going to have to get creative with the harder to find ones that I really, really want. But I've been watching them on VHS and that just feels right. You know, I love the, not necessarily grainy quality. It's just tape quality. It plays on my nostalgia in all the right ways. And that's okay. That's okay sometimes. And if you're new here, you might, or if you're old here, rather, you might recall, like when Felicia Angel was on the show, she brought up something that I didn't even clock as being like a lot of work because I loved Tales from the Crypt so much, but she had wanted to see it because she hadn't seen it in a while. And she asked if like her cousin could come with her when I was going to do like a watch party. So I asked how old her cousin was, and like they were under 18. So like I curated like a batch of episodes that were specific to, Tales from the Crypt, and just watch those with some some cheddar popcorn, some bad popcorn that I would never allow to just have in my kitchen, but it was good. Maybe miss it. I miss it. That orange cheddar popcorn. I haven't had it in years. But it's probably so bad for me. But honestly, I guess I should have clicked how obsessed I was with the show a lot sooner. I really, really do love Tales from the Crypt. I've even got a little signed Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight thing by John Kasser. I love him so much. I would love to work on a project with him. Like that would probably be, as much as I'm like, oh, Keith David or, like Clancy Brown. I love John Kasser. I really do. And that's not to say Tales from the Crypt is perfect. There are some episodes that have aged like organic grapes. Not good is what I'm saying. Not good at all. I kept seeing clips pop up for The Studio. And Catherine Hahn is enough incentive to check that out. So there's nothing like The Studio. It's so wonderfully weird. And some of the shots they created are just wild. Like Stephen would like pause it and like, how the fuck did they get that shot? It's just cool. And Seth Rogen is an easy win for both of us. I watched Future Man, and you don't know what fucked up TV is until you've seen Future Man. I forget at what capacity he's involved in The Boys and Gen V, but those are also easy wins too. But The Studio, if you haven't checked it out, it's, I think 10 episodes total, and there should be another season, but it got a fuck ton of Emmy nominations too. So check it out. As far as reality, I'm doing my court shows. Obviously, People's Court is on YouTube, so I'm very, very happy. Doing some makeover shows like I'm Tabitha and I'm taking over. That's not a good Australian accent, but I haven't practiced for it, so leave me alone. I did stop watching Project Runway a while ago. Like when Christian was a winner for season 4, I think I only watched a couple more seasons after that, but Christian's a good like barometer for where I stopped. I miss Tim Gunn. I don't think that's a hot take. But they replaced the Tim Gunn, like, person with, I forget what Tim's official capacity was, but that's Christian now, which just shows how old we are now. Utica from Drag Race was the main incentive, though, that I started watching this new batch of Project Runway. Law as a judge is also amazing. But honestly, Utica / Ethan was a brilliant designer on Drag Race that I had actually been kind of trying to keep up and see what else they were doing. Because I also know that they've designed for a lot of other drag queens. So, I mean, did I think he deserved to go home after bombing really hard during the Rose Challenge? Yes, but amazing drag artist, amazing designer, just not a comedian. So this Project Runway is perfect. A couple of things I really I don't know because I didn't watch a lot before this revamp or like revival, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if they were doing these before, but I really hate cliffhangers. Tell me who the fucking person going home is by the end of the episode. That's how all reality shows work. The episodes are also really short, and I'm so not a fan of group challenges basically ever. In addition to Project Runway, I've also returned to South Park. It's been a minute since South Park happened, and Hoff has only just recently started watching it for some reason. I wonder what incentive would convince Stephen Hoff to finally watch South Park, to finally give it a shot. It's a mystery. but explaining certain things about South Park have been interesting. Like, I almost feel like I should just stop giving him context and just make him watch it and struggle with it. Like, he's like, it's what? I'm like, it's a sentient towel. Come on, Steve. And as far as like keeping up with, the main thing I've been keeping up with is Bob's Burgers. I feel like, honestly, I might be done for the season with it. But the show just holds up in a way that I feel like other animations, not all, but just for the purposes of my argument, let's say all, it's aging better than other shows that I'm revisiting right now, like especially animation. Like The Simpsons, the rewatch that Steven and I had planned is I had to stop. It was just making me cringe and uncomfortable. And I know sometimes you watch, like think about any kind of like David Lynch thing that you watch, you're typically watching it and being uncomfortable and living in that discomfort in an interesting way. I feel like The Simpsons isn't doing it intentionally or with purpose. I think it's just cringe in not a fun or interesting or just introspective, retrospective, whatever way. Like I don't dig on it the way that I used to. Like I love making references. Like I was talking to, about with older episodes, like I was checking in with my boy Steve and just kind of like, I'm so happy for all the success and just happy life stuff happening for my bro. And I was just like, dude, I love you. I forget exactly what we were saying. And he's like, I would go to hell and back for you, man. And I'm like, I would go to Arby's for you. And he's like, wow, you really are my friend. And, see, there's a Simpsons reference. But I don't really make a lot of like Bob's Burgers references, sure. But it just, I don't know. And it's also really nice. I'm sure, like, I'm not even the 80,000th person that's brought this up. It's great that this family actually in Bob's Burgers likes each other and loves each other. Like, Bob doesn't think Linda's a nag. He really does love Linda, and he loves his kids, and his kids love him. Like, it's not toxic. It's, I hope it keeps going. Finally watching season 3 of Foundation, which is always beautiful. Every season is gorgeous and smart, and the performances are killer. Steven and I will just marinate on an episode for like the rest of the night. Just keep talking about it. And I could talk about so many actors, but Lee Pace has been an obsession since Wonder Falls, people. Wonder Falls. Some of y'all have no idea what I'm talking about, but it's amazing to see him continue to grow as an actor. And also, Foundation gives him and all of Empire this unique thing of playing so many different versions of the same person, but all of these people are going through different things. It's fascinating to watch. And such a hard story to adapt from Isaac Asimov, but they're doing it. They're doing it so well. A big surprise show was /is, because I think another season's coming, as Monarch Legacy of Monsters. I think I even made a post. I'm like, no one was going to tell me that this is fucking awesome. And I had a bunch of people that I've never talked to be like, I'm sorry, I didn't know how to bring it up. Oh, I'm kicking stuff. Sorry, Steven, I'm kicking stuff. Even though Godzilla has like less than 5 minutes of screen time, yeah, you have to bring up Godzilla because it's fucking Godzilla. So Godzilla's in it. A bunch of kaiju were in it. It's great. Kurt Russell can still get it. Just so you know. He can. And so can Wyatt Russell, which is something I learned from this show, which might be disturbing because I just said his dad can still get it, but we're moving on. After we finish this season, I talked way too long with Hoff about whether or not King Kong is considered a kaiju. And he is, at least we agreed he is. I don't remember what they're not calling them kaiju. I forget what they're calling them off the top of my head, but I need another season. I need another season right freaking now. It's so smart. And casting a father and son to play the younger and older versions of the same character, so fucking smart. It doesn't always work. But damn, it works in this instance. And because I'd seen Wyatt in some other things and being like, Wyatt is not talking the way Wyatt does when he's not also playing like, I feel like he's channeling his dad in an interesting way. And I think his dad's also factoring in the way Wyatt performed. So brilliant. Honestly, it also got me thinking, I'm like, when's the last time I saw a Godzilla movie? Like, I don't know. Like new to me. Like I watched the 50s, 60s movies a lot as a kid. And I remember the fuck awful Broderick one. We saw that at some point, but the main thing was that a song by a horrible person sampling stuff from maybe a less horrible person or not a horrible person at all. I don't know. I don't know who's horrible anymore. Garbagey fuckstick people. But yeah, no, like I know some people that have been a part of those movies and people that have also dubbed parts of those movies. But I haven't seen anything in a while, which is bad because I collect Godzilla stuff maybe. Or maybe just already being a fan of what I like of Godzilla is enough. I need to collect more Godzilla stuff. Sorry, wallet. But if y'all would recommend out of the newer ones, like from the past 20 years, if y'all had any to recommend, I might listen. I might. You never know. I've read a whole lot. Since we last caught up. I really had to pare down what I liked in order to make it not the entire episode, which is so funny that I'm talking about it now. But there's The 13th Child by Aaron A. Craig. It focuses on Hazel, who's one of 13 children. Dear God. But her godfather is death, and she can heal people, and things are going, well, more or less, until they aren't. It's a beautiful story, and I can't tell you too much about it without giving too much away. So I think this is my third or fourth book by Craig, so I'm going to keep on reading their stuff. A Language of Dragons by S.F. Williamson. It's historical fiction. Bletchley Park with dragons. Do what you will with that. I'm looking forward to book 2. Behooved by M. Stevenson. I literally just scrolled past it, I think, and liked the cover. So sorry, I do judge books by their covers sometimes. Sometimes I read a book despite the cover, especially these new cartoony covers that I'm like, okay, this is about like some serious shit, and I've got like a cartoony cover that makes it look like a graphic novel. I'm so annoyed by it. Do I have a few on my shelf? Yes, but that doesn't have to do with Behooved. I really don't know how to hype it up, so check the synopsis. You might dig it. More smut. Deal with it. The Rejected Omega by Sarah Sellers. This shouldn't shock anybody. I'm pretty sure I've discussed similar books to this before, but I'm into shifter books. I'm into Omega-verse stuff. It won't be for everybody, but what book is? That's not a real question. But what book is? Don't answer that again. I've read a few things by Catherine Center. So out of those this past month, the big one out of those is the rom-commers. Very, very cute. Very different read for me was a book called Pony Confidential by Christina Lynch. You know, get a murder mystery and a pony POV. Why not? Why not? Wooing the Witch by Stephanie Burgess or Burgess. It's like, hey, what if a character we think of as the Dark Queen is really just trying to live her life and falls in love with someone she would definitely kill if she knew his real identity? You know, there's a second book, but it's not about her. But I'm looking forward to reading more in this universe. I like the way the universe is built. Daughters of Olympus by Hannah Lynn. I don't know. Hannah Lynn. That's how I'm saying it. Hannah Lynn, probably. I don't really read a lot of books about Demeter, honestly. She hasn't fascinated me all that much. But this was an interesting perspective, and it made me think about some other reads that haven't really vibed with me, because Demeter, I rarely get her perspective, I guess. I will say her perspective is rough. Like, Stephen definitely heard some of my gripings about how rough it was for her. Greek mythology, not always treating women, even women that are gods, very well. That's all I'll say. But the first half is completely Demeter, and the second half is Persephone's perspective with a little Demeter thrown in here and there. But I liked Persephone's perspective. I love the portrayal of Hades in it. And Persephone and Hades stories are usually a win for me. So I might be biased, but I liked it a lot. Another Kiersten White book. I've read 3 or 4. Lucy Undying by Kiersten White was really good. I started and stopped it a couple of times, but then came back to it. Not a huge fan of the Dracula story. I found Dracula by Bram Stoker to be really fucking boring. And I really didn't like the female perspectives through letters and blah, 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 blah. But, and I might shock the shit out of some people. I mentioned this on a very short-lived stint as a co-host on a podcast that I did not produce at all. I was just one of the talking heads. And I maybe made it 2 or 3 episodes before I'm like, this is not it for me. But they were talking about horror movies. And I'm like, oh, obviously one of the greatest horror movies of all time, Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula. I'm like, what are y'all talking about? And they were shocked. I'm like, I don't dig on it. I love Keanu Reeves, but he's not enough reason to dig on that movie. It's a beautiful movie, don't get me wrong, but Lucy Undying is about Lucy, and it changes the story. I mean, Kiersten, The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein was also a fun revisit and retelling of Frankenstein from Elizabeth's perspective. I tend to like Kiersten White. And I think the last book that I'll talk about is A Far Wilder Magic by Alison Saft. Both MCs are so well developed. I love their perspectives. I love the way they're written. And magic realism is probably a favorite of mine as far as genres. So this delivered. I think it's my 2nd or 3rd book by Alison Saft. So there you go. As always, these are more or less things I enjoyed. I didn't mention everything. Some of it is because it's stuff that I always listen to or read or watch. Other times I don't mention stuff because it didn't pass the vibe check. And in this hellacious time, give yourself a little bit of grace. If you're not digging on something, don't finish it, or return to it maybe when you're feeling a different way. Simple. I just don't want to talk about things I didn't enjoy. I've got reality for that kind of talk. Reality. Must we talk about reality, Terry? Yes, Terry. Enough of the third person, Terry. Sorry, Terry. I'm sorry. Hearing my own name is always weird. Like, that would always be weird. Like when my mom would be like, oh yeah, no, I'm Terry's mom. Da-da-da. Like, ugh, no, you're not. Did anyone else get weirded by that? Or are you normal? Let me get a little bit of water. So that's it for media. If you've been keeping up with TAS Rewind on the Obscure Chatter RSS feed, you'll notice we've finished, officially the re-release of my 2010 to 2014 podcast called That Anime Show. I'm actually recording before the 2016 reunion special, but this Obscure Chatter will be released shortly after. Time is fun. Good times. But yes, That Anime Show is now fully back online. I say fully. There is one episode that will never see the light of day again, but we'll get to that. It took over a year to re-release, and if I'm honest, I'm glad it's over. I mean, don't get me wrong. So much of the revisit was me listening and getting swept back into a different time in my life. But it was also listening and getting swept back into a different time in my life. You either get that or you don't. Sorry. So many times I cringed like so badly. I mean, not like Simpsons level cringe, but close sometimes. Which in a way is good. You know, cringing at your past self is a great indicator that you've grown. And I've grown through, I've gone through a lot since the original airing. And so is Steven, so is Tatum, and the mostly wonderful guests that have graced us with their presence. I do wish that I hadn't felt the need to edit things as much as I did. Aside from like shout outs and services that no longer existed and so on, most of what was cut out were mentions of shitty people. So some mentions I left in, others obviously not so much. When we were airing, we didn't know a lot of what we do now, or we were professionally courteous enough despite being around people that made our spidey senses fucking tornado level loud. It's just listening to some stuff now. It's like, oh yeah, you're fucking garbage. It is so obvious now, you garbagey fuckstick. Fuck you for being on my show and tainting it, you dumb piece of fuck ass. It's, I might feel a type of way about some people, past and present, hell, and future. You know what future you did. And I debated whether or not I was going to talk about it, but I'll talk about it in a way by not mentioning the person by name. So the main example of garbagey fuckstick when it comes to That Anime Show has been deleted. I hadn't spoken to Tatum in a while when some truly heinous as fuck stuff came to light. And I had a big talk with Steven about deleting Garbagey Fuckstick's episode. Though I was the main producer on That Anime Show, I wanted to get Tatum's thoughts on it before like officially proceeding. Because I didn't also want him to be blindsided at a con or whatever and be like, hey, where's this episode? So again, we hadn't spoken to one another in quite some time. And so I called him. And when I called him, he was driving. He almost got into a car accident when I told him why I wanted to delete Garbagey Fuckstick's episode. It took no convincing after that for him to agree that deletion was the right call, was the right move. So, and I'm talking about Garbagey Fuckstick's episode not being distributed and any mention of them being left on the cutting room floor. Because there's nothing good about who this person is, what they do, what they stand for, and may they have the fucking day they fucking deserve, always and for fucking ever. Sorry, not sorry. No, I'm glad I mentioned that. Fuck it. Listening to That Anime Show episodes that weren't deleted made me really miss the friendship that Tatum and I used to have. We were so fucking close then. And the show helped us see each other more often than if we hadn't done that anime show, if that anime show had never existed, I highly doubt we would have gotten as close as we did. And we were already pretty close by the time the show started. But after it ended, I mean, Tatum moved a few times a little after the show ended, which made it even harder to hang out. And then, you know, our relationship definitely changed because that's just how this whole life thing works. It was just a few months later that we started doing what we called at the time broadcast dubs for this little company called Funimation. You might have heard of it. You might have not. I'll explain what it was. No, I won't. But weekly anime releases alone made seeing one another outside of work harder because Tatum was writing so much and farther away. And I was doing more recording at a few studios as well as at home with audiobooks and demos and a bunch of other shit. So professionally and personally, the dynamic changed pretty quickly after that anime show said goodbye. And there was a second where, as some of you might recall, shortly after our reunion, about 2 years after the official series finale, that the three of us, me, Tatum, and Steven, toyed with coming back. We were going to do a Patreon because we needed some kind of compensation, though. We never saw anything monetarily for doing that anime show. Some people tried to capitalize on our stuff with leaving us without any compensation too, but that's a whole other fucking thing. When the demand for more episodes and harder to get guests and all that like got intense, it just got overwhelming for us, especially, and not to be like me, but me, like I was the one booking people. I was the one working with like 4+ schedules, all this shit. And so we thought if we were going to do it again, we had to justify taking time away from possibly booking other gigs and stuff. And so we had a lot of support and backing, which I am still grateful for to this day, but it just wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough. I honestly don't know how much we would have done even if we had gotten enough. Like the vibes just weren't the same. We weren't that Terri, Tatum, or Steven anymore. And almost a decade after, here we are. And real talk, I mean, Tatum and I rarely talk. I gave him a heads up when we decided to re-release that anime show. And that was a pretty quick conversation. I might be bursting some bubbles, but I'm pretty honest. I've told you guys some pretty intense shit over the years just on Obscure Chatter, and I think I was pretty honest on that anime show as well. We're just not that Terri or that Tatum anymore. And, in a way, it's great to have archived that friendship at that particular moment in time. Steven and I are different now, too. I think we're a much stronger couple now. One thing that was wild on the revisit is I recalled all the little copycats. I'm going to be a little catty here for a second that tried to fill in the void. Well, I'd say fill in the void. They did this while we were also airing too. But there was one instant where it was someone I knew who had asked me how we recorded, also talked to Steven, how we recorded, how we booked, and a few other things like through email, and also being like, hey girl, let's get lunch. And then asking me like too many questions. This is why I rarely try to make new friends, is like, are you legit trying to be my friend, or do you just need a leg up? Because you can be honest about that, but don't try to be my friend when you're not actually trying to be my friend. I don't have that kind of time. But anyways, they did all this only for them to try something very similar not too long after like our conversations. And I never called them on it because these really didn't go anywhere. So you burnt. I don't know the last time I said you burnt, but you burnt with a T. Going through these episodes, I did I did all of it alone as much as possible. It was only when tech issues were extremely fucky that I brought Steven into the fold. He works a normal 9 to 5 and I'm a freelancer, so my time's a little more loosey-goosey. And I wanted that dude to relax as much as humanly possible, because when we did that anime show, as much as, he got to talk whenever he wanted to on like crew episodes, staff episodes, whatever we want to call them. He did a lot behind the scenes, especially when we did like holiday specials or we did live shows. He did so much. And so I wanted to be able to re-release these. I can engineer a bit because Steven's trained me pretty well. So any cuts and all of that, those were done by me. But we still ran into tech issues. Pro Tools, is never fun. It's never fun. Like it used to be, but it's not anymore. But there were episodes that left me emotionally raw, where I needed to completely step away after prep and everything was done. And there are things that either never made it on air or happened behind the scenes that I completely forgot, that would just come flooding back to me, like the feelings and everything. And these are things that I'd already moved on from and worked out, that really tried to bring me back to a very uncertain, insecure place. And that, that's a great example of how different Steven and I are now. I was very honest when I was drowning in my feelings. They were ugly moments, but Steven helped me so much, and I'm so happy that guy stuck around despite those ugly moments. That's where you really kind of figure out who you are as a friend or a couple, I remember thinking about doing another podcast with a different co-host at some point, and it seems so odd to have entertained now. Like listening to the series finale, like Steve Yurko and Zach Logan mentioned in their little note in the finale that Tatum and I had a great balance to each other, and that's why the show worked. And it, I guess we were so like, whatever, let's do this loosey-goosey, that we didn't see it and, or hear it. And so listening to it now, I kind of wish that we'd been able to continue with that same energy. 4 years really is a short amount of time for a podcast. I mean, we're 6 years into Obscure Chatter, and I think we change a bit with every episode, hopefully for the better. So, what might have been does occasionally cross my mind. I got a lot of messages and comments during the revisit. Probably still will for a while, which is cool. So many names that I haven't seen in years that expressed how happy they were that the podcast was back. I mean, that anime show was and is so special to so many people. And it was so unstructured and silly and stupid and heartwarming and fucking funny. I wish we could have bottled that and sold it. But thank y'all so much for all those messages and comments. Hopefully some of you stuck around for this silly little show with this silly little lady. If not, how would you know what I'm saying right now? Is that too real? It is too real. I'm scared. Moving on. Oh, moving on. I mentioned all that I read this month, and that is all, or mostly all, thanks to my local library. I've mentioned this, but it bears repeating. Support your local library. Tell a librarian that you think they rock, or that Terri Doty thinks they rock. Terri Doty, the girl that borrows a lot of smut? Not a lot, the normal amount. Okay. It is weird to tie the word smut to my father-in-law, but here we are. Because I'd been begging Ed to get a library card for a while now. And I might have mentioned this before, that I can't recall, but Ed lives in an assisted living facility and he doesn't like to go out all that much, and I don't blame him, and I'm like 50 years younger than him. But he loves watching TV, like especially like conspiracy TV or car shows. But he's a big fan of reading. His vision is just, he's 91. His vision isn't great. And so I've been asking him if he wanted to try audiobooks, but he seemed a little scared to download yet another app. I mean, this guy has TikTok, for fuck's sake. But Steven and I went over to his place after I got him a library card on my own, signed him up. Like I had all his info. So I'm like, fuck it. Downloaded like the cloud library app to his phone, his iPad, showed him the site. And 3 hours later, Ed was still very, very lost and confused. I love this man, but I was so tired. I'm like, please. The app is right here. Just fuck with it. And he literally, at one point, I showed him like the site. He closed out the site. I was trying to navigate him. And he's like, all right, where do I go? I'm like, you were there. You were there, Ed. But yeah, 2 weeks. I'm like, oh God, I did borrow a book. Maybe I should just log in and return it for him. And he's like, oh no, I'm already on my 3rd book. I need headphones. Give me some. I'm like, oh shit. So we just needed to leave him alone to mess with it. And I'm happy it was worth all the effort. Even if it hadn't been, it was fun to try. Again, libraries rock. And if I hadn't mentioned it already, you guys rock. And if I had, I'll say it again for flavor, you guys rock. Y'all sent me so many messages because I mentioned Pierre the Penguin from the Woobles kits. I got a lot of great advice and encouragement from a few people that I'd never seen in the inbox before. So it was interesting to have stumbled into this ride or die crochet circle, I guess. The community is very welcoming. And to give you an update, there is no update. Pierre's kit is staring at me from the office. I haven't given up. I just haven't been motivated lately. And that isn't to say I don't have time. I just don't currently have the motivation. Help me with that. I don't know. Keep like spamming me with like crochet or shit. Please don't do that. I swear to God. And it's like, I see people, I don't know where the motivation will come. Like I did have it and then I just got a little, but like I see people crochet like at the doctor's office or waiting in the dentist. You want to know what I was doing when I was waiting in the lobby for Steven at the dentist? I was watching People's Court. Okay. So, oh God, the dentist. I forget if I brought this up last time, but Steven has been going through a lengthy and costly journey for this new tooth. Like his last checkup, our dentist, Ryan, came out to get me so we could like have a big talk. And he's our family dentist, actually, because my father-in-law, Ed, goes to him too. But I love him. I love Ryan. Like he's very small town vibe, good small town vibe, not vibe. And it's always the same receptionist and everybody's just so friendly. But Steven had to have a tooth removed and we're doing all this funky stuff for the next few weeks and months to eventually get his body to accept a corpse tooth and make it his own Steven bone. That's what Ryan's been calling it, Steven bone. But it's a corpse tooth. And doesn't that sound expensive? Because it is. But Steven's worth it. So and right now we don't have dental insurance because it hasn't been covering anything. I miss the idea of insurance covering everything, but that's a whole other thing, some of which you guys know, some of which you don't need to know. And I just had a cleaning and I don't like my hygienist, but I don't know if I'm supposed to. And stop asking me questions that require detailed responses when your fingers are all up in my mouth, Brenda. Her name isn't Brenda, just so we're clear. It was a good checkup. They did mention, like, what about a night guard? I'm like, For longtime listeners, you might recall that an ornathic surgeon wanted to cut up my lower jaw a few times because I have an asymmetrical face that could be oh so much more symmetrical if I just wired my jaw shut for a while, for at least a year, and let someone go to town on my skull. There was a better way to say that, but here we are. I decided not to go through with it because they just couldn't give me a reason why I needed it outside of aesthetics. And literally they made sure to bring up how much weight I'd lose. Like, yeah, I imagine I'd lose a lot of weight when my jaw was wired shut. So I blew that off. Maybe they'll convince me, but right now I highly doubt it. And also I'm blowing off the night guard because it's $700. I can't do over the counter. I've tried those. They cut up my teeth or my gums. I don't know. I just can't justify. I'm an actor. I make tens of dollars doing what I do. Let me know. Let me book another gig and come back to me. Which is not to say that I'm not buying stuff in the meantime or helping people. There was this weird interaction, this weird thing that happened that's kind of stuck with me for a couple of weeks. Let me get some water. I was a latchkey kid. I was alone a lot. And when I say alone, my little brother was sometimes with me, but that's another kid. You know what I'm saying? Alone, probably too much. And I walked around the sketchiest fucking neighborhoods, either alone, just me and my little brother, or with kids that also had no adult supervision. God, we were so weird. We were we'd shoplift candy or throw rocks at abandoned buildings, windows and stuff. And Jesus, we were all going through some shit, probably without realizing it. Childhood trauma. Sorry. But, we would also randomly bug adults, just go to our apartment, gym and just bug the shit out of people trying to work out. Most people left us alone. And I'm thinking about, Jesus, it's amazing we didn't get kidnapped. Because that happened all the time. It still happens, unfortunately. But, I mean, okay, I haven't even gotten to the point yet. But do you know why it's called the Amber Alert? Her name was Amber Hagerman. She went missing when she was 9. And her body was found a few days later. She didn't make it. And she was only 2 years younger than me. And we both lived in Arlington at the time. I was living in Arlington. I was a kid myself. And if she were alive now, she'd be almost 40. And I think about how lucky I am that I didn't end up like Amber or the countless other kids that should be here today living happy and healthy lives surrounded by loved ones. So I was headed over to Horror Freak a couple of weeks ago to grab the most random thing. It was a Lafufu. Judge me all you want, but he's huge and he's a dragon and his name is Dinkles. So while I was reversing out of the garage to go, this sweaty ass kid was waiting for me in my driveway. Guys, he was so sweaty. It's not cool here. Remember, I made the mention of the AC. Our AC cuts out at least once a day. There is nothing wrong with it. It's just that fucking hot here. I really miss the ozone layer. So when I rolled down my window, he immediately ran up and he said he'd been going door to door to ask for money to get something for himself and that day was his birthday. So I hear you. Okay. I hear you. He could have been lying. I did this as a kid, but he looked so fucking miserable. So I gave him money under the condition that I was the last house he went to, because you shouldn't be going door to door at all. And he agreed. So I offered to drive him to the store. He declined, which understandable. I did follow him for a little bit because he just looks so tired. I was really afraid, like, even if it was just like a con or whatever, like he was barely holding it together. So I hope what he told me was the truth, but I honestly don't care, because if he was lying, he clearly needed the money that made it worth putting himself in that heat and in danger, a bit of danger, but we don't know. And I just hope he's okay. He's been haunting me a little bit, honestly. It made me reflect on some of the crappier parts of my childhood. Like, I was weird. I was weird for a couple of days after that. Like, Steven kind of kept close, but like kept his distance because I asked him to. And I don't know. Should I have done more? Did I do too much? It's a weird subject to talk about maybe, but life is weird. I hope he's okay. Let me get a little bit more water. So there's one last topic I want to cover before we say ta-ta for now. And it's not that I want to cover it. It's that I have to cover this before we wrap things up. If you follow me on social media, I'm sure you've already seen, and countless others have talked about this too, but you've already seen me and a bunch of others talk about this. I'm going to do it again, and I hope you'll forgive the repetition because this is very important. There's someone that's going through something major, and he needs your help. He needs our help. I have had the absolute pleasure of knowing Mike McFarland since 2008. In all the time we've known each other, Mike has been my actor, my director, my producer, my shoulder to cry on, and most importantly, my friend. He is a phenomenal human being. Mike is one of the few people I will let hug me. Like, without question. I more or less hug people, but he's a first-class hugger. There was a time for a couple of years where we used to do dinner once a week, like a bunch of us. That hug once a week, that hug will make you feel like fucking family. It really will. Mike is one of those friends that will pick something up for you just because he thought of you. No agenda, nothing. Mike is one of those people who will listen without just waiting for his turn to talk. Mike is one of the best people to talk about music with, that you'll share music videos with at the start of the day. He has one of the best laughs in the entire universe. I saw Nothing But Trouble, a rewatch of Nothing But Trouble with Mike. I saw Dragon Ball Evolution in theaters with this man. Trust me, that laugh of his stays with you. He is so awesome. He really is. My life is better in a lot of ways for having Mike McFarland in it. So you may recall that he had a surgery not too long ago. Pardon me, I kicked the mic again. You may recall he had surgery not too long ago, and things unfortunately have not gotten better. My old That Anime Show co-host, J. Michael Tatum, as well as his husband, Brandon McInnes, and Brina Palencia created a GoFundMe that's been very helpful since Mike's initial diagnosis and treatment. So I'm going to read the update that Brandon made on August 18th, and I'll let you know when I've stopped reading. To everyone who has donated, we are so incredibly grateful and overwhelmed by the amount of love and support you've given to Mike. Unfortunately, Mike's tumor was a a glioblastoma and is progressing faster than previously hoped. After an attempt with assisted living, Mike was once again hospitalized and will now be moving to a skilled nursing facility to continue his treatment. We know the term glioblastoma might come as a shock to some. Mike only told a few at first with the severity of his condition. With some encouragement from his family, he has bravely decided to go public with his diagnosis. While insurance does cover a certain number of days for care, everything beyond that will be a private pay scenario. If you ever looked into the cost of such facilities, you know the national average is the price of a decent used car every month. Everyone has already been so incredibly generous. If you can, please donate. Every little bit helps. If you can't, please help spread the word. Thank you all for your kindness. You have no idea how much it means to Mike and his family and his friends. That's the end of the update. There might have been one between when I recorded this to the release, so keep a lookout. If you can't donate, that's totally fine. I will ask that you consider sharing the GoFundMe link. That really does go a long way. And I'll include the link in the show description. I also have a highlight called Mike on my Instagram profile. Also, keep Mike in your thoughts and prayers. He's an amazing guy, and I hope things get better for him. I really, really do. Maybe that's enough. At least this time around. Maybe it's too much. You tell me. Actually, don't. I'm going to do these the way I want, and you're just going to have to listen anyway. That's how it works, right? When a new episode drops, it just starts playing wherever you are, right? Right? Thank you all so much for listening. Remember that you can always be a part of a future episode by submitting questions and requests to obscurechatter@gmail.com. All submissions remain anonymous. Until next time, read good shit, watch good shit, listen to good shit, don't be a shit, and remind your loved ones how much you mean to them. How much you mean to them? No, Terry, how much they mean to you, dummy. Oh, yeah, it is time to go. Let's catch up in September, y'all. Adios.